performance, where I obviously cannot make it even more better than that with just slight details, because obviously it is on the level where you can already go and perform it in a concert setting. But what I want to speak to you about is how to make this music to be even a little bit more precise with what the score says to you. So obviously you know the score as far as by heart. I just want to test one thing with you. Your piano, when you are changing the pedal, it does quite a hard sound. Is it
Yes, I
you
know
or is it
that.
piano? Is it you or is it piano? Because
I
I
think
just,
it's piano a little bit because before when I didn't open the piano, it wasn't like that. But I don't know, maybe it's also me, but
would you just try a little bit for me? Because I don't want you to roll anything on you, which is basically not your fault. Because if the piano does this sound, obviously it's not you. I know how you perform. I have never heard you performing with the piano pedal, which is as hard and as loud as you just did today. But let us test it, whether you can do it a little bit more softer.
okay.
Just from the very beginning, I will stop you after, let's say, 4 or 5 bars. It will be enough for me to hear. Bravo. Elżbieta, thank you very much. It was part you, part the pedal. I'm very sorry. You did now an amazing job. But trying to hide the, I don't know how to call it, try to hide the natural pedal of your piano. It happened with me several times when I had also pianos where I played on a way too sensitive pedals and they made the sound. I treat it as my job to always keep the pedal to sound like I'm used to that. Otherwise, I just know that it's one more sound that is not in the score and it's not in the imagination of the composer. So I kind of need to try my very, very, very best. And then, of course, the limits they will strike, but always go to the limits. I remember a very beautiful performance by one lady at a competition where I was judging, and I just remember that all the jurors were outstanding with how she sounded on the piano itself, but we were all very disappointed that she couldn't hear the sound that she produced with her pedal. And this was one of the reasons why she couldn't proceed to the next round, because if she is not capable of hearing an altogether room, then it says something about you and your musicianship. Okay? Obviously, when you are practicing on this piano, you are very used to how it sounds already, but don't forget that it's not a part of the life of this
Yeah.
work. What it produced with you is the piece, the first piece, this Abends. It sounded in the beginning with this pedal effect a little bit like a very slow waltz. And you obviously want to keep very long lines, just as a composer who wrote it. You know, a beautiful evening where we have to imagine that we take all the breath out of the world that is happening there and then just release that breath very slowly.
Yeah.
Yes, it is not enough to have the breath for one pedal, for one bar, and then to breathe again in the next bar. But this is what it sounded like in the very beginning. I want now to give the audience the possibility to look at the score, and I would love us to start working on this piece in precision. You know that you can hear my voice. I will be stopping you when I have something to say. Let us start from the very beginning.
Aufschwung or das Abends?
No, that's Abends, please.
Ah, okay.
Thank you very, very much. Was it now your effort to not move as much as you were moving in the first performance?
It was an effort.
Thank you very much. You thought about that. I can tell it to everyone in the audience that yesterday I have met with all the students. We tested a little bit the sound, and this is what we actually spoke about you about in those 2 minutes that we met yesterday. The very important thing at the Des Abends is to keep the very long line running. You cannot have a long line if it's not inside of your body. This is how I work with all my students who keep playing the left hand just like all the time. They have to jump down and then go back, jump down and go back. This results in some kind of a body movement which cuts the music each bar. How we can prevent that is basically make ourselves think more of the right hand. It's not very easy, with jumps being way more sophisticated and hard to do than the big movement upstairs. So what I do all the time is when I practice, I just take the melody and I put that melody inside of my body movement. If I want to have 8 bars or 18 bars or whatever amount of bars that are connected completely, I will try to prevent all my body movements except of maybe one long body movement altogether. And this is what you marvelously did right now. And I felt like the music was just one whole instead of being cut to shorter pieces. Thank you very much for this. You can also concentrate a little bit more on the basses and their natural changing. When you are playing the D flat, then again D flat, then again D flat, and so on, obviously every of these D flats, it can sound a little bit like a bell tolling somewhere in the far. But what I want you to prevent is to make this bell to be too audible. This is where I had problems with the pedal in the beginning, because the pedal changing, it also made the change of the basses all the time way more audible than it should be. But you could also think this bass as a line, which goes and goes and goes, and after 8 bars, it finally produces the C. Then it produces the D flat, then the D, and then the F, and then resolves into the E flat. It's a melody on itself. And if you keep this as some kind of a melody, then you will never want to play bar after bar. Okay? Would you do this for me once? Just play the bass and don't make the jumps in the left hand altogether. If it's not too hard, with this, please play the right hand in its complete.
So only the right hand melody and the bass?
The right hand completely as it is.
And the bass.
And the bass. But the bass not as just a bass that starts the bar, but as a continuous melody of many notes tied into one line.
Okay. Yes, it's better, but it's difficult, different.
It's difficult to concentrate, I know. Just don't forget that the last bass in A flat, it's not an octave lower than it's written. You don't want to have too many overtones. But that was wonderful right now. Let us have this first phrase, just because it's repeated so many times, to play it once again, just like it is written. But now with the same concentration for the melody of the basses, like we did before. If you don't hear my voice, just continue in the very same pace. And look at how these basses exchange with each other.
Okay.
If I have to stop you, I will. But if I don't, just continue. Idea for this scale right now? What does it have to represent for you?
Maybe the returning to the first theme. I don't know what.
Yes, just the returning. But when you don't control the sound at some of the notes here. Sometimes it can get disturbing to hear some notes to be louder and some of the notes softer. Just to make this a complete melody without no notes disappearing or appearing too much, I wish the very same thing what you did now with your basses, just to complete it here. I know that the real bass is here on the C, but maybe you can take the very same energy of one note after each other and just make it faster with tying them all together, starting with the very first sigh that you get here on the accent.
Okay.
And just play until you reach this E flat, A flat. Okay? Try it once again just for the left hand.
So from there, or
just directly.
Okay.
I kind of hear your first finger, your thumb, to be a little bit too precise now.
In left hand, or
exactly.
Here?
It sounds a little bit like.
Okay, sorry.
You don't want that. I'm pretty sure that it can also be the piano to blame, but
yeah, I think so.
Do your best effort. How did you do this?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know.
Just...
But you see, this is why I'm asking you the question, because then I will give you the tip how I am doing this. First of all, you have to think just one line, and this line may not be played without dynamics. This is what I always do when I am playing some composer from the Romantic period, or at least inspired by the Romantic musical language. It always involves some intonation, as many people call it, or microdynamics, as I like to call it, because just my students prove to understand that term a little bit better. The microdynamics are the natural connections between the notes. If you are going up, just like in any piece by Chopin, you will do a slight micro crescendo going upstairs. If you are going downwards, you will do a slight micro decrescendo, diminuendo. Okay? When you think about that natural line going upwards, and if you want to make it with micro crescendo between each of the notes, where the G flat turns to be the G, then to be the A flat and B, and so on and so on. Every time you will make a slight micro crescendo upwards. If you continue supplying this line with your attention, nothing will ever go wrong, and the fingers will find the very right shape to set themselves on the piano. Could you try this for me?
Yes.
Just the left hand starting from the F sharp, G flat. Just from here.
From here.
From here. You don't have to even care about the right hand so far right now. Just start directly. Thank you very much. And all the time when you have the thumb to lay, the thumb is our most significant finger, I guess. It weighs the most and it wants the most attention from us. Try to make the crescendo into the thumb and from the thumb to even have more attention than that. All the time just go one step higher than that in the sound. This is what the micro crescendo would be. Let's try it just once more and then move from this place. Bravo. Wonderful. You see, it's not so much training of the fingers as it is training of your ears as themselves. So I want to suggest to you sometimes to just have fun and to play the scales where you know that something can happen with completely different fingering. It cannot get more different than playing one note left, one note right. One note left, one note right. Just take the second fingers in both of the hands and play this scale because it's not about fingers, it's about your ears.
Yeah.
Could you?
Okay.
Just with second fingers in both hands.
Now or?
Yes. Just now. Bravo, thank you very much. And now you have heard how you can sound where you are completely with attention to that scale. So now you can do it again with your natural fingering, but just listen to yourself. Okay? Bravo. Okay? So now you know how many different, how many times we have to repeat the very same kind of score. When you have this piece, for example, of music, it does sound like a repeat once again. Again, this is also a repeat. When you played it the second time, I felt like you wanted to make this repeat to be more dramatical. Am I right or not? Yes.
Yes.
Would you consider to have it a little bit less dramatical from the standpoint of the sound loudness? Because for my taste, it was a little bit too overreacted, if I may.
Yes, of course.
I just don't think that it's needed. So if we could just reach this point from somewhere, just from here directly. Brava. I especially didn't want to stop you because of the second time when you played this scale. Now it was perfect.
Oh,
How did you do this? You see, when the pedagogue needs to concentrate on those kind of little scales and almost can't say anything else about the piece, it is just a sign of how well you perform it anyway. But then it's just a matter of the question whether everything is as perfect, or there are some things where they feel a little bit more neglected. It's obvious that we all practice scales and we know them all by heart and we think, oh, it's just a scale, you know. And this is where the devil lays sometimes. So we have to be careful that on those particular places where our head says to us, oh, this is the easiest thing, we still have to maintain the concentration. My trick, how I maintain the concentration, is I think about the microdynamics. As I told you, especially it is the easiest thing to do in the romantical music where it's the part of this musical language anyway.
Yeah.
So if you maintain your focus on just getting slight crescendo to each of the next notes, is just enough of the focus to keep the quality of the sound anyway. Okay? It is exhausting. That's the reason why musicians usually, you know, they would order the largest pizza in the bar after the concert. But this is a good thing to think about, okay? So, and also, just like in the very beginning, when you were supporting those basses and all of their changes with your head, I really want in the end for you to still maintain the same focus. just to not make this piece to have a slightest chance of turning into the waltz, which is obviously not. Okay? With this being said, let us move now to the Aufschwung.
Yeah, okay. Do you have to play now or
yes,
you?
Please. I don't want to comment on that right away because, first of all, your performance from the first time to the second time, it changed completely. So I really want to be surprised the same way right now too. Let us see what you can do about that. Maybe you can guess what I'm going to talk about. Bravo, thank you. Thank you. Very, very good. So, first of all, I also want you to try to avoid playing one bar and one bar. In comparison to this and this, Schumann wants this to be the center of attention. You are doing two centers of attention. The first one and the second. Then the first one, then the second. Then it turns out that we are cutting the piece one bar after one bar. The structure here is obviously thinking two bars right away. This is the center of our attention. Please keep your best energy until you reach it.
Okay.
Don't give too much here.
Okay, but the next time it's forzando in left hand, so do I do this or I mean, will it separate also?
No. Don't think about the left hand so much. It's just the bell that falls on a different side of the ball.
Ah, okay.
Let's try once again. Thank you. Okay? Thank you. How did you like it?
Yes, it's much better. I also thought that, but I didn't manage to do that the first time. So.
You know, you wanted to kind of make a big emphasis on this note. It cannot be as big as the sforzando here because it will change the structure of the piece. But you can make more and just see what is the limit to still maintain one line from here until this C. You can try basically by singing this already. You will see what kind of movement you want to have.
Yes.
Okay. Do you sing often?
Yeah, quite often.
Could you sing for me the very first line and maybe even do some body language together with that? If you want, you can also snap just like I did.
The melody, yes. Si, do, re, do, si, si. This.
Exactly. You don't need to also take the notes now with you because it will take your time from the energy. But try to sing it like ta 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 ta. Maybe I even want to hear whether you think this as a ta or a ra or a or whatever it is. So surprise us. Yes, the second time you sang differently. Which one do you like more?
Yes, because I don't know.
You're experimenting, but this is good. You see, those experiments, they are giving us the possibility of finding what we really want here. So do the second experiment right away. Maybe you found already something.
With my singing or
yes, please do.
Okay, so what do I choose? With which note? I mean,
from the very beginning. Wonderful. It's a different performance already. And now let's bring that to the piano.
Okay.
Thank you. How did you like it now?
I think it's better. Maybe the best of those two.
I think so too, because now at this point you have heard already what is the most natural for you to wish when you are singing. We learned to speak or to sing earlier than we learned the piano, in most of the cases. I don't mean Lazar Berman, who started at the age of 2, but all of us else, I guess, who are not that lucky and fortunate, we have started playing the piano later and we started speaking or singing. This is why we can also keep finding the inspiration from the things that are more natural for us. I don't know how many of you in the audience are teachers of the very elementary classes, but maybe we have several of you there too. What the kids do at the age of 4 or 5 when they just start with the very first musical lessons, they also walk quite much, they clap quite much, and they sing quite much. And with this, they learn to understand the music, to make it the part of their natural body language. So this is what we do all the time when we are playing the pieces that are far more extraordinary maybe for us to right away understand what did composer want us here. I sing all the time. I hope my neighbors will excuse me for that. But I sing all the time, and from this I derive also most of the ideas how I will perform. Especially, I can also, again, say the same thing, especially it helps for romantical music, which is based on the idea that the piano sound is singing itself. Okay, so with this being said, you can really sing more than you really play, and then you will turn to piano and see, okay, I want this to sound same way that I just sung for me. It's just more natural to derive the inspiration from singing, rather than derive it from the finger movements. This is where all of our problems usually start with, when we start thinking with our fingertips and not with the natural expressions.
Yeah.
So let us go further from the piano. So much to say right now. Do you feel already that you have way more movement to the front than you did before?
More movement in tempo or in what?
Also in the tempo. I don't want to speak about the tempo. You know, tempo is just an expression of how we adjust the ideas that we want to come forward, you know, and to go forward. But now it felt more flowing for me. How did you feel? Could you control still everything that you wanted to control before?
Well, not everything, because the bass were everywhere, not exact, not
Don't worry about those basses. It's basically the very same thing what we spoke about when we were already discussing this particular line in the left hand of the first piece.
Yeah.
You have almost the same thing, like some kind of an echo. Also here. If you would maintain the focus on the natural crescendo that you would do in this line, it would help you to avoid the accents and to cut it into the smaller grooves than it should be.
Yes.
Would we start again from here?
Okay.
Like a dialogue. Now you did a dialogue. You started with this voice and then you gave it an answer. Then again, you asked and then you gave it an answer. It was so much more beautiful for me to listen to that, because now I felt that every note has its quality. Yeah. But why it did the quality? Why did it have the quality? Because it was connected into the logical line. You know, for each of the fingers to find the right shade of how to play the sound is extremely hard to do. But it always will feel itself right in the middle of some melody, where it is somewhere between two notes that need some kind of the, you know, accention, where you have the first note, then you have the second note, then the third note inside of the line. It will naturally produce some kind of the crescendo if you just keep your attention on this. Do you agree?
Yes, I know.
So with this, you don't need to really feel Like, how do you have to put the fingers on the piano in the first place? They will just do it by themselves. Just keep attention on that. When you practice, do you usually practice with some of the voices, for example, being completely thrown away? Would you practice like this? Without anything, what is happening?
Yeah, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just play in the right hand, I play the harmony, and then in the left hand, the melody. Yeah, almost like that, yeah.
This is a very good trick, you know, because then you release yourself from all of the technical tensions and you can realize what the natural thing for the melody would be.
Yeah.
So, and then when you are playing it already in a full setting, just have to keep your attention on that. Okay? So, with this being said, let us continue with the same piece, okay?
Yes. So, from the same time?
From the second time. With this, look, for example, the melody that we had here, and I was really looking forward to working on her, and then you stole my job. With making it way more flowing than you did before. Did you really think about that now?
Did I what?
The flowing of the melody. In the very first performance, it felt a little bit like you were playing a very fast waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It didn't feel like that this time anymore. What did you do for this?
I still don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was just the nerves. I don't know.
Let me give you a trick. First of all, you can maintain the focus on the right hand and try understanding how can you get from this point to this point is just one breath. I would actually exhaust myself singing those kind of melodies. And maybe if you want to take my trick, you could start singing this melody from the very first note. Grip your piano and then just go back with your body movement in one steady line. Just take a very big breath in the beginning and let's do it together for just once, okay? Start it somewhere here. We will be going back and back and back and back and back until we are out of breath, okay? Just don't do any other contradicting movements in between, okay?
Okay.
So, and sing. Let's go. Why don't you sing?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
I want you to sing because I just wanted to give you the energy and then I wanted to disappear so people can hear your beautiful voice. Let us do it once again. Okay. And let's go. Brava. I didn't hear quite some of the notes of the melody. Did you sing them all? Maybe there is something with the computer.
I think not because because then I put my mind to the left hand because of the accents, and then that's why I didn't know.
Don't worry about that. Let us do it just one more time. Let's have the score just in front of us. People are still seeing us in the small section on the right side of the screen. So let's go once again. And. Bravo, very good. And now let's try playing the same thing, but with the energy of just one continuous body movement, just like we did before. Okay? Would you start from this place? you want to make it a little bit more agitated,
yeah, maybe a little bit.
You can. Try this once again. Does it help to you to keep this inside of your body? Or is it just
yes, but maybe I just did too much, because then I just didn't. I felt I don't have much space here.
I know, my cat would tell you more about that. She usually, and then she falls off. So let us go now and try to do the very same thing with your bass melody, because sometimes it's the basses that are not allowing us to avoid the volts. Okay? Could you now please just play the melody of the basses and do the very same body feeling? You don't even have to move. Just feel that it's just one continuous movement instead of changing every 2 notes.
Yeah, okay. So, but with the right hand, yes?
No, don't play the right hand all together. Just play the melody of the basses.
So only the melody of the basses.
Yes, please.
But only this, or?
Yes, exactly. Only this.
Sorry, I forgot somehow.
Don't worry about that. Do you have the score in front of your eyes?
Yeah.
You can take the score. I know that these questions that I'm asking, I never want to trick you into thinking that I'm testing you. Because I don't. I know that you know that voice. It's just, maybe this setting also.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of the attention. Bravo. Okay, and now please, again, all the voices. Now let's take the focus on the bass line. Let's see how it helps us.
Sorry.
No worries about that. Let's try once again. How did you feel now? Was it more natural for you to feel
yes.
full melody?
I still didn't hear the basses very clearly. I don't know, maybe it's because of the piano, but...
No, it's not because of the piano. It's just because, it is not a priority line. But it helps us to feel the connection between the notes to avoid the bumping into each of the notes.
Yeah.
Because naturally we are making this movement all the time. And every time when we land on the bass note, it is after the first and the second finger have played already. So when we don't maintain the focus, it will result into cut notes.
Yes.
But if we maintain the focus, then at some point, you will get a steady line without even having to make each of the notes sound like it's accentuated in any kind of way. So let's try now connecting from here, because I want to regain back your original tempo and see how it works if we don't stop and just go and flow further.
Okay.
I know that you are playing this as expressively as you can. I will just not stop too much here, because if you are stopping it here, or if you are stopping it here where you are obviously grasping the very first note as your energy giving note, then sometimes it can sound like you are taking the pressure or taking the appassionato away of the music. You know the character of Florestan, you know how different those characters of Eusebius in the first piece and the Florestan in the second piece have to be. It is like a war, a musical war between those two characters. If you are sounding a little bit too relaxed in the appassionato, in the Florestan, then you are bound to not have such a big of the contrast in the first place. Okay? So I think that you are relaxing those jumps a little bit too much. Take the advantage of the jump and just jump on it. Instead of stopping.
Okay.
Let us start from somewhere here where it is easy for you to do.
All right.
Thank you. Elżbieta, just be sure that you are taking advantage of this note as an energy giver. You can even treat this as the first note of the Beethoven slur, where you start with the most energetic note, instead of appearing into the middle of the bar. Start it with the energy. Okay? Let us have a step on the same place. Thank you. How do you feel now? It's not that comfortable anymore because I'm eliminating your comfortability moment.
Yes, it's not that comfortable, but when I will manage to do that, I think it will sound much better, because of the weight from the...
Give it 5 minutes. Give it 5 minutes. It's nothing really more.